My wife mocked my paychecks at dinner. I smiled, cut off every account, exposed her transfers, filed separation papers, and walked away calmly free. She was already halfway through her second glass of wine when she said it. I just refilled her water, hand on the pitcher, napkin still across my lap. Her voice was light, rehearsed, like she had practiced the line in her head just for this moment. Is Paychecks cute like a starter pack? And just like that, something inside me stopped, not snapped, not cracked, just stopped. The table erupted, plinks of cutlery, a chorus of laughter too sharp for the dim lighting. One of her friends actually wheezed. The guy next to her spilled a bit of his martini from laughing so hard. And my wife looked so proud of herself, like she had finally been accepted into some sorority of sharp-tongued housewives with Botox smiles and least luxury. I didn't say a word. I didn't even blink. I just nodded once, topped off my own glass of water, and looked at the waiter. "Check, please," I said. They were too busy laughing to notice how fast he brought it. They definitely didn't notice. I tipped him 40%. I stood, helped her with her coat, and walked her to the car like a gentleman. She leaned in on the way home, still buzzed, and said, "You know I was joking, right? You're so sensitive sometimes." I smiled, eyes on the road, totally hilarious. By morning, 3 things had happened. The joint checking account was down to $87.24. The shared savings was emptied and reallocated to a trust account in my name only. And I had opened a new personal account, one with no shared access, no paper trail to the house, and absolutely no credit card attached to her purse. It didn't even feel like revenge. It felt like I had taken a deep breath for the first time in years. And before we go deeper, I need to say this. If you are one of the 98% who watches but hasn't subscribed yet, it would mean everything to me and my small team if you hit that button. We are grinding every day to hit our first 10,000 subscribers, and your support genuinely fuels us to go harder and sharper with every story we tell. Back to her smirk. What she didn't know and what made her laugh so hard was that she just handed me the knife. She thought I was too simple, too dependable, too non-threatening to ever push back. That night, she joked with her friends about how I still wore Costco jeans and drove the same truck since 2009. What she didn't realize was that every dollar I didn't spend on flash, I spent on making sure she never saw the cliff coming. And no, it was coming. Because behind the calm smile I gave her at the table, behind the gentleman routine, behind the quiet drive home, was a man who had paid every bill for 19 years, the mortgage, health insurance, groceries, lawn service, holidays, even her goddamn wine club membership. I bought silence for almost 2 decades. She just cashed out the last check with a punchline and a wine glass. What she failed to realize is that a man like me, quiet, steady, unseen, is the worst kind of person to mock publicly. We don't explode, we plan. So when she curled up beside me that night, still giggling in her sleep like the evening was a triumph, I lay there watching the ceiling fan turn and turn and turn. I wasn't thinking about what she said. I was calculating what it would take to make her feel it. The moment she woke up the next morning, I was already sipping my coffee, checking the new account dashboard on my phone. Green everywhere. She came down yawning, kissed my cheek. "You're up early." I shrugged, just organizing things. She didn't even notice the box on the floor by the kitchen table. Old tax folders, statements, utility bills, everything she never touched. She poured her coffee, hummed to herself, and I realized she had no idea she had already lost. The next time she handed a card to a cashier, it would flash her red air. And the smile on my face, that wasn't revenge. That was freedom. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the first crack showed. She was at a boutique in the West End, one of those places with fluorescent lighting, minimalist hangers, overpriced tags that screamed, "Divorce someone for this." She picked out a pair of shoes that looked like the love child of an Italian loaf in a spaceship and swiped her card. Declined, she laughed politely. "That's weird," she said to the teenage cashier who couldn't care less. Tried again. Declined. "Must be something with the bank," she mumbled, before pulling out her phone and pretending she had urgent texts. She left the shoes on the counter. That was the first little sting. 2 days later, brunch with friends. Same circle from that dinner. Same performative laughs. She reached for the check, this time, trying to reassert her financial dominance after that awkward boutique moment. And her card blinked red again. Declined, this time in front of everyone. "I think Chase is having issues," she announced, her voice sharp at the edges, trying to laugh through it. One of the girls, Vanessa, raised an eyebrow. She nodded stiffly. "Yeah, glitch or something. Only it wasn't. Not a glitch, not even close." Then came Thursday. She swiped into her gym, the fancy one with eucalyptus towels and someone always refilling cucumber water, and nothing. The keycard light stayed red, the gate didn't move. Try again, the guy behind the desk said. She did, still red. He scanned the screen. Looks like your account is inactive, ma'am. What? That can't be right, she snapped, suddenly aware of how many Lululemon-clad women were behind her. I'm just telling you what it says. She left. Didn't even do her rage Pilates. By Friday, the credit card company finally called. Friendly tone, just a courtesy check-in about some unusual transfer activity. A polite way of saying, why did thousands of dollars vanish overnight from accounts that haven't moved in years? She hung up and called him immediately, straight to voicemail. Then again, same. By the third call, she stopped leaving messages, just dialing. When she pulled into the driveway that evening, she half expected chaos. Maybe mail on the floor, maybe a notice taped to the door. Instead, the house was pristine. Too pristine, like it was frozen in time. He was in the kitchen, calm, making coffee, pour over like he always did, meticulous. She walked in, scanning him like a detective in a crime scene. Something's wrong with the accounts. He looked up, almost cheerful. Is there? My card was declined twice. In my gym, she stopped short, realizing how ridiculous that sounded. He took a sip. Everything's where it should be. What does that mean? I moved the money I earned. Figured it was time to simplify. Too many shared logins, too many assumptions. There was no bite in his voice, no anger, just precision, like a surgeon delivering bad news without blinking. She stared at him. That's not how this works. He raised an eyebrow. Really? There was silence. For once she had no script, no witty retort, no line for her friends, just a tightness behind her eyes. She didn't fully understand, yet, a feeling that something she never imagined was happening, and it was already too late to undo. By Saturday morning, the car insurance company left a voicemail, calm and professional, the kind that almost makes the message worse. We attempted to process your monthly payment. Unfortunately, the transaction was unsuccessful. Please update your payment method to avoid interruption in coverage. She stared at the phone like it was a glitch in reality. Tried logging into the joint account to check. Access denied. She blinked. Tried again. Wrong credentials. Tried the second bank, the one they used for shared expenses. The account she swore was her safety net if things ever went sideways. Account not found. She drove to the branch, told the teller her name. The woman squinted politely at her screen. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing you listed on this account. Would you like me to verify with the primary holder? Her mouth went dry. No, she left. That night, her club autopay failed. They sent an email, then a call, then a lockout from the members-only portal. No more yoga with a view, no more Tuesday wine tastings where she bragged about managing the finances. By Sunday, the panic she tried so hard to keep buttoned up exploded. He was on the back patio reading. She stormed out barefoot, hair half pulled back, phone in one hand like a weapon. Are you seriously doing all this over one joke? He looked up, blinking slowly. Is that what you think this is about? You're overreacting. I was joking. That's what we do. We tease each other. No, you mock. I tolerated. She stared. So this is about your ego. He put the book down. No, it's about clarity. I realized something, and it's been a long time coming, which is, you think I'm replaceable. A reliable utility like a water heater. Unseen, underappreciated, but God help you when it breaks. That landed hard. Her face twitched. She snatched a glass off the patio table and threw it full force, shattered against the wall. He didn't flinch. Just walked past her into the house, came back with a folder, old, thick, and well-organized, laid it gently on the table between them. This, he said, is every bill I've paid since we got married: health insurance, mortgage, groceries, vacations, the down payment for your mother's car, the hospital bill when your sister stayed with us, every single one. She didn't move. He opened the folder, showed her rows of printed statements, highlighted transactions, annotated summaries. 18 years and 11 months of quiet, invisible labor. She reached for the final page, a single sentence typed in bold, center-aligned. Love is trust, laughter is revealing. Below that, in his handwriting, thank you for revealing. She didn't say a word. For once, the queen of social performance had no monologue, no deflection, just silence, and the faint sound of glass crunching beneath her foot as she backed away. By Monday morning, she was in full public relations mode, tapped into every contact she had, called her lawyer before even brushing her teeth. Pacing barefoot across the tile, she spewed her version of events: financial abuse, spiteful retaliation, frozen funds, all the buzzwords. He listened, then asked a simple question. Do you have access to any accounts in your name only? That stopped her. She did plenty, but that wasn't the point. She snapped. He was destabilizing her life. He's trying to make me look like a gold digger. There was a pause on the other end, a shift in tone. Are you? She ended the call. Across town, while she was spinning her narrative, he was building his case quietly, methodically, like he always did. His first move wasn't to retaliate. It was to protect. He called the bank's fraud department, laid out a detailed map of potential account manipulation, flagged every asset they once shared, froze anything with his name attached, reported her prior transfers as requiring review due to suspected misrepresentation. They didn't question it because his records were impeccable. He had never missed a payment, never bounced a check, never asked for a credit extension. He was every banker's dream, consistent, boring, and now terrifying. Then he made his second call to a forensic accountant. Not just any spreadsheet cowboy, but a former Internal Revenue Service auditor he had met during a subcontracting gig years ago. They had shared coffee, mutual loathing of bureaucracy, and a dark sense of humor. Still hunting ghosts in spreadsheets, he asked. Depends. You offering a corpse? I'm offering a paper trail. And oh, was there a trail? Because over the last 6 years, his wife had been reallocating funds, masking them as portfolio diversifications, transferring small sums from joint accounts into so-called shared ventures, then moving them again into her name-only securities. Quiet, precise, and, to her, completely untraceable. She underestimated two things, that he would ever look, and that he would understand what he was looking at. But he had spent years reading her, and now he was reading statements like a murder mystery. And the twist? Her new bestie, the one with the loudest laugh at that humiliating dinner, the one who called him adorable between sips of overpriced Riesling, former certified public accountant, suspended license, burned out after a decade in corporate audits, and owed him a favor. Years ago, he had helped the guy out of a nasty lease dispute, drafted letters, negotiated the terms, never charged a dime. You ever need something? He had said back then, I got you. Well, that moment had arrived. One quiet lunch later, he had insights no regular accountant could have sniffed out in time. Offshore hints, dummy corporations, old shell entities recycled under new names, things no divorce lawyer would ever look for, but a disillusioned certified public accountant. That man smelled blood in Excel, a feast. By Wednesday, he had a binder tabulated, cross-referenced, annotated evidence, dates, signatures, and just for flavor, screenshots from her own emails, forwarded documents, instructions, careless carbon copies. He didn't throw it in her face. Didn't even hint at it. He just left it on the kitchen counter, casually labeled, first quarter discrepancies. She saw it when she came home that evening. Didn't dare open it. Just stared at it like it might explode because by now she was starting to understand something deeply unsettling. He had never raised his voice because he never needed to. It didn't happen all at once. That's what made it worse. The unraveling came in layers, quiet, invisible at first, like a leak behind drywall, a canceled lunch here, a rescheduled spa day there. The subtle drop in emojis in the group chat. Her phone wasn't lighting up as much. The girls who used to call her queen under every Instagram post started double-tapping without commenting. And then not even that. It clicked one morning when she checked her story views. Mira, Vanessa, Lacey, gone. No likes, no hearts, no yes girl. She brushed it off as just the algorithm. But even she didn't believe that. The truth was out in whispers. Somewhere between Pilates and poolside rows. Word had spread she wasn't who she said she was. Not financially, not personally. The woman who once bragged about never needing to check a price tag was now fumbling her way through brunch with prepaid visas and hoping no one noticed the split-second delay between her laugh and everyone else's. Then came the party. She tried to reclaim some ground, host a wine night, sent out the texts, rented glassware, ordered catering. When the invoice hit her inbox, she clicked pay now, smiling as she imagined the evening's photos. Card declined. She tried another, declined, called the vendor, asked if they would accept Venmo. They didn't. She canceled the order, claimed she had food poisoning. No one responded with feel better. A few didn't even see the message. She stood in her kitchen that night, staring at the fridge like it had betrayed her. Then she cracked, picked up her phone, called him, not screaming, not angry, begging. I get it. Okay, you made your point. Just please stop embarrassing me. This is cruel. He was quiet for a moment. She could hear him sip something. Then he said, voice level, and I'm not doing anything. Yes, you are. People are talking. I'm not talking to anyone. I just stopped funding the show. Silence. Then a click. Call ended. She stood there trembling. She never imagined herself the kind of woman who would need someone. But now, stripped of the scaffolding he had quietly held up for 2 decades, She was exposed, naked under fluorescent light. The next morning, in a move of desperation disguised as decorum, she called her mother. Whined, complained, painted herself the victim in broad, sloppy strokes. "He's shutting me out, Mom. He's turning everyone against me." Her mother didn't say much, just promised to look into it. That night her mother did call him. He answered on the second ring. "Hello, this is Susan," her mother said, measured and tight. "I'd like to understand what's going on." She's saying, he didn't let her finish. "Ask her how much she's been lying." "I'll wait." There was a pause, sharp inhale, then he hung up. No follow-up, no apology, just silence. And that silence, ironically, made more noise than any accusation ever could. Mira had always been her confidant. Not just a friend, her mirror, her sounding board, her keeper of secrets. They had shared champagne-fueled nights and whispered confessions built on years of trust. Or so she thought. So when Mira texted out of the blue, "Lunch?" Just us, she didn't think twice. They met at a quiet bistro uptown, white linen, no crowds. The kind of place where uncomfortable truths can be shared behind tasteful silverware and neutral jazz. Mira was already there, hands folded over her phone like she didn't want to touch it anymore. She smiled tight. "You look tired." She forced a laugh. "I've been dealing with some financial static." Mira didn't laugh back, didn't even blink. They ordered salad for her, just water for Mira. Then, without preamble, Mira said, "I know about the account." The fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "What account?" Mira didn't flinch. "The shelf fund. You used my lawyer, remember? You had me help you sign the incorporation documents. Dummy limited liability company, that little emergency reserve in Cayman." Her throat closed. Mira went on. "You said it was just a precaution in case he ever got boring." "Your words." She tried to smile. "Mira, that was years ago." He reached out. The words hung in the air like a suspended blade. Her entire body went cold. "He what?" 3 weeks ago asked me about some old financial moves you made. Said he was trying to make sense of a strangely organized household portfolio. Very calm, very polite. She didn't speak, just stared at her water glass like it might offer an escape hatch. "I didn't say anything at first," Mira continued, lowering her voice. "But then he mentioned dates, transaction times, amounts, offshore identifiers, things I didn't even remember." Her lip quivered. "He has everything." "No, he couldn't. He does. Even the offshore detail, the blind trust, the escrow movements, all of it." She started shaking, not visibly, but her hand on the napkin had gone pale from how tight she clutched it. Mira leaned forward, voice barely audible now.
"And he's not angry. That's the scary part."
She blinked hard. Mira added, almost apologetically, "You married a guy who never yelled. Didn't complain, just observed. All those years you thought he was passive, but you were building a sandcastle in the tide, and now the water's rising." She pushed her chair back suddenly. "I have to use the restroom." Didn't wait for a reply. She barely made it to the stall before the tears came, hot, ugly, raw. She sat on the closed toilet seat, face in her hands, shaking. The kind of cry that doesn't even make sound at first, just a physical unraveling. She had always thought secrets gave her leverage. She never imagined they would become her cage. And now the walls were closing in. Not with a bang, but with calm, clinical precision. She wasn't supposed to be home yet. Her Pilates class ran late on Thursdays, followed by her routine green juice, a scroll through curated affirmations, and then maybe a passive-aggressive call to her mother. That was the rhythm, predictable, polished, hollow. But that day something itched under her skin, an instinct. Maybe it was Mira's voice still echoing. Maybe it was the eerie silence from the friends who once made her feel untouchable. Maybe it was the look her barista gave her, like he knew something she didn't. She skipped the juice, drove home. The house was too quiet. No music, no blender, no distant hum of the dryer. He always ran right before she remembered laundry existed. She stepped inside and instantly felt it. The weight in the air, the absence of distraction. Then she saw him standing at the foot of the stairs, a single suitcase by his side. Not the big ones, not the dramatic kind you pack in when you are trying to send a message. No, just one, compact, efficient, chosen. She froze. "What are you doing?" He zipped it shut. "Packing. Where are you going?" He didn't answer. "You can't just leave." That's when he turned, and his face, it wasn't angry, it wasn't sad, it was worse, it was free. "Sure, I can," he said. "I've already been gone for years. You just didn't notice." Her mouth opened, closed. She tried to summon the rage, the script, the "how dare you," but all that came out was, "Are you going to ruin me?" He tilted his head, studied her for a second, then said with all the weight of inevitability, "No, you'll do that yourself. I'm just stepping out of the way. She stepped forward, desperate now. We can fix this. You're just upset. This is a phase. You're not thinking clearly. I've never seen things more clearly. She looked at the bag again, then at him. Where will you go? Somewhere honest. The sentence hit like a slap, but he said it with gentleness, like someone setting down a glass instead of smashing it. He walked past her. No ceremony. No dramatic pause on the threshold. No suitcase wheels echoing like a movie, just his hand on the knob. A moment, then the door opened and closed. Not a slam, not a bang, just a sound that said, "You were never listening. But now you'll hear everything in my silence." She needed to prove she was still in control. That was the mission. So she pulled out the red heels, sprayed the expensive perfume, and texted the old crew, Vanessa, Lacey, Mira, inviting them for one of those nights we used to have. She needed the optics, needed to remind them and herself that the throne hadn't crumbled. Just got dusty. Reservations were made. A table for 4 at Solace, a rooftop place where dinner cost more than her first car. She wore her diamonds, the ones he gave her on their 10th anniversary. Irony was just another accessory now. They toasted under string lights and laughed too loud, too fast, like women performing joy instead of feeling it. By the time appetizers arrived, she was almost convincing. Almost. Wine list, ladies. The waiter smiled. She took charge. The 17 Emerin, the good one, nods all around. He returned 10 minutes later with a pleasant face, but something behind the eyes. That little flicker of discomfort they try to hide during awkward moments. "I'm so sorry, your card's been declined." She blinked, smiled too wide. "That's odd. Try this one." She handed over another. He disappeared again. The table kept quiet. Then he returned. Second card. Declined. This time her laugh was shorter. A bark, really. There must be some issue with the bank. "I've been traveling." Mira turned to her slowly. Not smug, not cruel, just solemn. She leaned in, gently touched her arm. "You might want to call him." The air left the table. Vanessa looked away. Lacey sipped her water. Even the waiter, trained in elegance, practiced in customer discretion, stood frozen, unsure whether to speak or vanish. She froze. The words hung there, sharp and quiet, not shouted, not dramatic, just surgical. Mira leaned back, expression unreadable. Her tone hadn't been sarcastic. It was pitying, and that made it worse. Her hand trembled as she reached for her phone, screen lighting up with that default lock screen he never liked, but she never changed. She suddenly felt naked. Not from the dress, not from the glances around the room, but from the realization. Everyone knew, not just that she had lost access, but that he had taken it calmly, strategically, without a single raised voice. And he hadn't just taken the money, he had taken the illusion and left her performing alone, spotlight on, audience gone. She waited until after midnight. The restaurant debacle had left a bruise not just on her ego, but on her very identity. She used to be the woman people envied. Now she was the punchline, a cautionary tale in expensive heels. Mira hadn't returned her texts. Vanessa left her on read. Lacey posted a picture of dessert without tagging anyone, a passive-aggressive exile if there ever was one. So she poured herself a glass of leftover Merlot, stared at the glowing screen in the dark kitchen, and finally caved. She dialed his number. It went straight to voicemail. She called again. Same, a third time. Blocked. Panic climbed up her spine like ice water. So she did something she hadn't done in years. Opened her contacts list and scrolled down to a number she hadn't touched since the mortgage closing, a firm he once mentioned in passing, Hardrove and Associates. She didn't even remember saving it. Her thumb hovered, then tapped. 2 rings, then a voice. Female, cool, unrushed. You've reached the office of Mr. Hardrove's legal team. How may I assist you? Her mouth opened, then stalled. Then I need to speak to him. It's important, personal. A pause. Then the woman replied, not unkindly, but with granite certainty, Mr. Hardrove is no longer accepting direct communication. If you wish to make a statement or inquiry, please submit it in writing through our office. Click. Not rude, just final. The dial tone buzzed in her ear like a wasp. She stood there, phone pressed to her cheek long after the line was dead, as if hoping something might unfreeze. Nothing did. The silence after that call wasn't just quiet, it was absolute. And in that stillness, something broke. Not the kind of shattering she could pick up and glue back, the kind that settles deep, becomes part of the walls. At 3:17 a.m., she wandered to the front door and opened the mailbox. Inside was one envelope, no return address, cream-colored, hand-addressed. Her name, just her first name. Her stomach dropped. She stepped back into the kitchen, sat down, tore it open. One receipt, old, faded, from a coffee shop downtown, a single espresso and a chai latte, $6.18. Underneath, scribbled in his unmistakable handwriting, "Back then, your laughter was honest." She dropped it. Not like in the movies, not some melodramatic gasp or sob, just a small, involuntary tremor of her fingers. As the paper slipped to the floor, she stared at it. At the timestamp, 11:03 p.m., exactly 1 month before they had moved in together, back when she laughed because something was funny, not because someone richer was watching. And for the first time since this all began, truly viscerally, she felt seen, not adored, not pampered, not provided for, seen and judged, not by the world, but by the one man who had never needed to raise his voice to devastate her. The final wave didn't crash. It seeped in, quiet and merciless, like a rising tide under a locked door. The first alert came from the bank. Her platinum card, the one she loved to slide across counters with a smirk, had been permanently revoked due to unresolved ownership issues. She called. They transferred her 6 times, then told her politely that the primary on the account had filed a removal request, fully processed, irrevocable. She wasn't primary, never had been. Next, the deed. A letter from the county registrar arrived. She was no longer listed as a title holder on the house, not even partial, nothing. She stood there in her silk robe, envelope fluttering in her hand, trying to remember when she last signed anything. She hadn't, because he had. Back when she was too busy planning color schemes for the bathroom renovation and giggling about financial fog with Mira. And then on a Monday morning like any other, she opened the door to a knock and was greeted by a man in a blazer who asked for her by full legal name. She nodded, dazed. "You've been served. Separation papers, clean, sharp, brutal, and stapled to the back. An audit notice. Not just from him, from the state." Somewhere in the fine print was a reference to a flagged transfer, a string of shell corporations traced through 3 different states in one shaky offshore account. He hadn't ruined her. He had merely let the mess speak. The audit would take months, maybe years. The friends gone, vanished like champagne bubbles in stale air. Lacey removed her from the WhatsApp group. Vanessa stopped replying. Mira blocked her on everything after sending one last message. "Don't contact me," he asked. I answered. That's all. Even her mother stopped picking up. Voicemails turned into silence. Silence turned into shame. So she just floated until one night she found herself in the kitchen, phone in hand, fridge humming in the background like a slow metronome of regret. She wasn't hungry, hadn't eaten much since the cards were pulled, and the fridge stopped restocking itself. A single notification lit up her screen, a video from a group thread she thought she had been removed from. It was the dinner party. That dinner, her voice in perfect clarity, his paychecks cute like a starter pack. Her laughter followed, crisp, condescending, echoing under string lights. She watched it, then watched it again and again. She couldn't look away. Her smile, their laughter, his stillness. How had she never noticed the way he blinked slowly before pouring the water? The way his jaw clenched, not in anger, but in calculation. The 8th time she watched it, her thumb hovered to pause, but she didn't. She let it loop, her legs folded, back slid down the cold kitchen wall. Phone still in hand, and somewhere between the 10th and 11th replay, she whispered, barely audible over the laughter still coming from her own mouth on screen. "I thought he was harmless, but he wasn't. He was just patient.